Hello and welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records and talk about why I love them. Welcome to June. June is Pride Month. At least it probably is where you are. Where I am, it's celebrated in February, but no matter. Given that it's Pride Month, I thought it would be only fitting to cover an album by an artist who is openly gay. So today's episode is about k.d. lang and her 1992 magnum opus, Ingenue. It sounds like this. Save me. Sunshine, drink from my spell. But still somehow thrives this, the ground on which we leave on outside myself for so long. For the uninitiated, k.d. lang is a Canadian singer-songwriter. She's a winner of numerous Juno and Grammy Awards, in case you don't want to take my word for it that she's very talented and good at what she does. As a young person, she fell in love with the music of Patsy Cline, and it set the course of her career. She started out in a Patsy Cline tribute band called k.d. lang and the Reclines. Get it? Reclines. Cigarette. Burn And with some time, that band began to earn a reputation as a cowboy punk band. Probably in part because k.d. was dressed very androgynously.
Kathy Dawn Lang is the woman in charge here, even though she looks like one of the boys on the bus.
Also very performatively. She made a lot of her stage outfits and sewed weird crap that she found on them. In any case, these eccentricities earned her the very confused attention of the broader country music community. Her last album with Reclines won her a Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance, which is a mouthful, but it was a duet that she did with the legendary Roy Orbison. That skyrocketed her. I wouldn't say skyrocketed, actually, but it did give her career a kick in the pants. And in March of 1992, she released Ingenue, which was a marked departure from all of the country music stuff that she'd been doing previously. Anyway, 3 months later, she comes out as a lesbian. Normally, I try not to dig into the personal lives of the artists that I'm covering because it doesn't feel relevant usually, and I prefer to stay focused on the music. However, I intend to make the case shortly that these two things are inextricably intertwined. I'm going to be quoting k.d. lang directly a lot because this is a personal story, and I think it's deserving of respect and an objective lens, and also to not be bungled by a random stranger on the internet who's sitting on her living room floor. k.d. lang came out to herself as a 13-year-old to her family 4 years later. Despite her unconventional, androgynous appearance on stage, she remained famously tight-lipped about her sexuality and neither confirmed nor denied anything for years.
So why do you have to dress like that?
In a 1990 interview with Advocate magazine, she says, "When I write, I don't even like to use he or she. I always try to get away from that. I always use I or they or you." k.d. lang, they theming before it was a thing. The The same article describes a concert that she had done earlier that year. I quote, "She stepped back and paused. A collective breath was held into the accompaniment of soap bubbles and Miss Chatelaine on stage. And to general pandemonium off, she announced, 'It's true. I'm a Trini Lopez fan.'" She also starred in a film called Salmonberries, a small art house film, won some film festival awards. Anyway, in that film, she plays a woman who has a relationship with another woman. However, the early 90s had a slightly different understanding about the ethics of outing people. Katie Lang tells NPR somewhere around 2017, "I was scared, but it had gotten to a place where I went, it doesn't matter. What matters is that my music is honest." There was so much pressure at that time. Queer Nation was outing people. AIDS was in full-blown mode back then in the press and in life, and I just felt like I had a responsibility to come out and take some of the air out of it, like deflame it a little bit. And so without the knowledge of her manager, and against the wishes of everyone from her label to her own mother, she agreed to an interview with Advocate magazine in which she officially came out. Shortly after that, she shot one of the most iconic covers in the history of fashion rags with supermodel Cindy Crawford, of all people. Let's situate ourselves historically for a moment. It's 1992. It's only been 5 years since the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders removed homosexuality. It's only been 2 years, 1-2, since the World Health Organization removed homosexuality from their International Classification of Diseases. Cool. As she mentioned in that NPR interview, AIDS was in full swing. It would be another 4 years until there was an effective medication on the market. It wasn't until 6 years after her coming out that then-President Bill Clinton, US president, of course, signed an executive order that prohibited employment discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, except not in the military, where they didn't repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell until 2011. Needless to say, the press had a field day.
Her hope is that all the hoopla surrounding her personal life is drowned out by her voice.
She was blacklisted by a number of radio stations.
Because they threatened that.
Are you kidding? I never got airplay.
When she went to the Grammys following the release of the album, there were religious groups picketing outside, which frankly is uninspired and boring. At this point in the story, I would like to begin the deep dive into today's song, which is Constant Craving, the closing track. Constant Craving was Katie Lang's biggest hit, not just for this album, but throughout her career. This is the high point, depending on your metrics, but, you know, this song is a big deal. Earned her 3 Grammy nominations, of which she won 1, which is not terrible odds. This time she won for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. Another mouthful. This song features the line, "Maybe a great magnet pulls all souls towards truth." And I see this as the nucleus of the song. To my ears, Constant Craving is a poignant example of musical storytelling. It weaves this narrative of a person who is being pulled inexorably away from their self-suppression towards their authenticity, for want of a better word. I'll demonstrate how the music does this in due course, but first, a little bit about the song. Katie Lang had a very complicated relationship with Constant Craving. The music itself came pretty easily. She'd been listening to a lot of Joni Mitchell, specifically Black Crow.
I'm like a black crow flying.
And she and her co-writer, writing partner, Ben Mink, I think his name was, they wanted something that was similarly open and flowing. And so that happened pretty quickly. But she had a much harder time with the lyrics. It took her months to finish them. She was very writer's blocked. And then one day, the phrase constant craving entered her head, and the rest of the lyrics burst forth from that point. Sort of burst forth, I guess. There aren't that many lyrics to speak of, 2 verses, but, 2 good verses. I'd also like to take a minute to let you know that she typed these lyrics on a typewriter. So delightfully quaint to me. I used to have a typewriter. I named it Eric. Anyway, none of this furthers our story in any way. I just thought it was important that you should know. When they got to the studio, she struggled to sing this song in tune, which was unusual for her. She has exceptionally accurate pitch, normally. It was determined that she had a dental issue and needed to get a root canal, so her advice is that if you're having a hard time singing in tune, you should check your teeth and maybe have a root canal, but I think your mileage may vary in this case. She didn't feel like the song matched the vibe of the rest of the album, which is very kind of world music cabaret. She really took her time finishing it. She didn't finish the song until the entire album was just about done. She tells The Guardian, sometime last decade, "I was pissed off that we had this song. It was poppy, celebratory, upbeat." For what it's worth, I don't think the song is any of those things. Maybe poppy. Maybe. It didn't fit with the mood of the Ingenue album. I knew we needed a 10th song, but dragged my heels and was reluctant to sing or record it. I guess part of me knew that it was going to be a big thing. She concludes, also in The Guardian, "The song is a part of who I am." So forgive me if I'm reading too much into this, but I don't think it's a coincidence that she came out only a few months after the release of this album and of this song, because the feelings that were just described really play out in Constant Craving. According to Lang herself, the song is about desire for an unavailable, forbidden paramour, apparently a married woman. But I can also hear in this song her struggle to write these emotionally honest lyrics, her reticence about laying it to tape, her inability to lay it to tape, her indecision about whether or not to release the song on the album, and this implicit understanding that it was going to be life-changing. And with that, let's listen to the damn thing. This song opens in a vulnerable and unadorned way with some acoustic guitar and a little piano. That is a little bit of piano, not a diminutive piano. Full disclosure, I love this song. This is going to be so much fun. These chords are beautiful, especially that third chord. The first time there are 4 chords, second time there are 3 chords, so it remains unresolved the second time. The piano correspondent is going to clear this up for you. Piano correspondent, if you please.
Hello, team. These are the chords in the introduction of the song. Forgot the last one for a second there. So the third chord that the anchor is talking about is this one. Oh, it's so pretty. I love this chord so much. The first time it plays in the introduction, it's followed up by this chord, this major 7th. The second time, though, it doesn't resolve, it finishes here. Like this. First time. Second time. Unresolved.
We bring in some accordion, some drums. The song has some really unusual instrumentation. Actually, the whole album does, but this song in particular also features vibraphone that shows up at some point in the song, and it's played by the legendary Gary Burton. I don't think they're putting him to the best use because the man is incredible. And he's only playing on this track the odd little plinky plonk, but I suppose he's probably being paid the same amount either way. I was about to tell you about an album he did with Chick Corea, but this episode is not about that album. You should check it out, though. It's called Crystal Silence. It's amazing. Our vocal shows up. That voice. From the moment she starts singing, her voice is communicating yearning. And normally with these episodes, the show generally, what I try and do is break down how artists are achieving these sorts of things. But in the case of Katie Lang, I genuinely don't know. She just has this singular talent of being able to communicate the message of the song with her voice more clearly and better than the lyrics can. Utterly captivating, especially when she's performing live. When she is singing, you have no option but to sit up and listen. And in this first verse, there are these beautiful high notes, but also these sort of husky, whispered low notes, like this one. She sort of whispers the last line of these phrases. It's as if she's indecisive about whether or not to sing these soaring lines or keep it to herself. It's almost furtive, secretive. In this vocal delivery, you can hear the version of Katie Lang who is reticent about revealing herself to everyone emotionally. She did physically reveal herself to everyone in Sam & Mary's, I learned. I haven't seen it. But allegedly, she gets her... Never mind. It's time for a chorus. Beautiful chorus. I love it so much. The melancholy of our singer's longing just hits you square in the chest. And she's flanked by these staggered backing vocals who echo everything that she says. I love that. The chords are beautiful, and at the end of the chorus, they leave us with this unresolved minor chord.
These are the chorus chords, and they are beautiful. It's a lot of split chords. The chord that's being played with the right hand doesn't correspond with the bass note. So for instance, we start with a C sharp major chord, right hand, C sharp bass note. They link. But then we go, the chord changes down, the bass note doesn't. Beautiful. And then same thing with the next chord. That's an E flat chord, but the bass note is not E flat. Instead, it is A flat. Another beautiful chord. And then we're back to F minor, which is where the song starts. From there, we finish on that F minor. It feels like the story isn't finished. This is what it would sound like if the story were finished. Tied up, neat and tidy, all done. The song doesn't do that. It's this very moody, sultry... feels incomplete. Until... no spoilers, we'll get to it. I'll see you shortly.
We're up to the bridge, first bridge. It's one of my favorite moments in the song, the bridges. There are two. And when I hit play, have a listen to how far back in the mix the backing vocals sound. There's one harmony in particular that's really high and really powerful, but it's also very subtle because it's so far back in the mix. With those high notes, it's so easy to forget the immense power of this woman's vocal, because up until this point, her delivery has been very steady, tight vibrato, really controlled. She hasn't let loose for us yet. Yet. There's that vibraphone. I found it. I love the melody and the chords at this bridge and how they interact. So they flit back and forward between two different chords, two pairs of chords.
The beginning of the section opens with more of those really sultry split chords. That's a mouthful. Like this. We've got that E flat over an A flat again. We resolved to a nice clean C sharp major. Split chord, resolution. But we don't rest there. We immediately start flitting between these two chords. Has always been. Back and forth, this indecision. Is it this one? Is it this one? She doesn't know. We go back into our minor verse.
There's that indecision again, that will she or won't she, will I or won't I? That's my indecision dance. Wasn't sure about whether or not to do it, but... Then at the end of the bridge, her vocals slink quietly away, like this. See, it's subtle. It's very quiet. It just sort of slips out the back door. They yield to the solo, which is not so much a solo as a collection of nice, plucky arpeggios Apparently she just didn't want to write another verse, which I get. Chuck a solo in there. That's fine. The guitarist can do it. At the conclusion of our solo, there's another chorus, but this time we've got some higher backing vocals. Whereas in the first chorus, this was the highest BV. In this last chorus, this is the highest backing vocal. It increases the width of those backing vocals, and it really drives home the melancholy of that longing, you know? Bittersweet. That's what it is. It's bittersweet. But the chorus resolves major this time.
Here we go. Instead of ending here, unresolved, as we established earlier, this time we're gonna go major. This feels like completion.
Instruments drop out, except I think the percussion. It's just the percussion. Our singer is squaring up. She is ready to belt her truth from the damn rooftops. When our vocals come back in, we're at bridge number 2. They are completely naked, completely exposed, and whereas the backing vocals were way back in the mix before, now they are front and center. When we come to that really high backing vocal, it just cuts through the mix. Oh man, that voice! That is such an astonishing, magnificent wall of sound. And as far as I can surmise, k.d. lang's voice is the only one that appears on this record, so she's doing all of her backing vocals. If you know otherwise, please let me know in the comments, but as far as I can see, she is the only person who's listed as a singer on this album. So that really high vocal, that's her powerhouse voice, doing that work, doing the heavy lifting. It's so beautiful, so powerful, and I adore it. God, imagine being able to sing like that, you know? In any case, here's the power, here's the statement, here's the declaration. Our singer, our protagonist, our main character in this song self-actualizes. The instruments slot back into the fabric of the mix, and we are on our merry way. As the song fades out, this time the lead vocal doesn't slip away. She goes out, self-assured and assertive. This is somebody who has made her declaration and is on her way. That's how I hear it anyway. So in this 25th anniversary interview with NPR, k.d. says that she finally felt like she understood what the song was about. Yesterday in rehearsals, for the first time I felt what the song's purpose was and why we put it on as the last song on the record. It's an acquiescence. It's a summation of human desire. I think a big part of that desire is for honesty, for authenticity. The price of k.d. lang's radical honesty, of this, candor, among other things, is that her music seems to take a back seat to the more sensationalized questions about her sexuality when she's interviewed. And it's a pity because obviously the music speaks for itself. But what she did, I think, was very brave. She was a pioneer. Many other people had not done that yet. Ellen hadn't come out yet. Ellen came out in 1997, and k.d. lang featured in the episode about her coming out. I learned this week.
Ellen! Over here.
She forged a path for so many who followed, not only in the music industry. And you may be wondering, did she come to regret this decision? And I'm going to let the artist speak for herself on this one.
I had made the choice that my personal liberty and my, the emancipation that I felt and I have felt about coming out was definitely more important to me than my career at that point.
I definitely get tired of talking about it when I'm trying to talk about music. But if we're talking about sexuality and politics and my experience in it, no, I don't get tired of talking about it because it's a fascinating journey. And I think it's hopefully helpful to people. People thank me and tell me that they could come out to their parents by going, like, listen to her sing. See, she's gay.
And that's it for me. If you enjoyed this episode or you would like to support any of the weird things I do, I'll leave a link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you are most welcome to make a donation if you wish. No pressure, my friends. A massive thank you to everybody who has made a donation or signed on as a member. You have my love. Platonic, to be clear. If you're curious about what any of my original music sounds like, I'll leave a link in the description to that as well. Otherwise, thank you for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week for our second episode of the White Album Track by Track series. We're going to be listening to Dear Prudence. Have a great weekend. Please don't... No, you can't climb this. This is a fancy outfit. You can't climb it. And in March of 1992, she released Anjanae.